Nam 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 na 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 nam ya nam na.
All right. Perhaps some other time it'll be appropriate to speak about it. Right now we're talking about what oil is, not what essence is.
Okay, recording.
Right. Okay. Very good. Yeah. Let me just first. We will. One line. Yeah. Go ahead.
This that we said that it's Mineu Bay. So this, like in the human being, this would be the equivalent of the human being knowing his own knowing his mila as a human being, or knowing his human quality. The self-knowledge. This was how we describe this kind of aura.
Yes. But I have to have it as precise as possible, because a little deviation is already going in a different direction.
Okay.
It's not his mila knowing his truth, his own truth.
Okay.
The reason that a human being wants to be a human being is not because of his milas.
Okay. Because this is his connection to what the Eibishter made him. This is the Eibishter made him.
This is a connection, and he has it, Eibishter's truth in him,
yeah.
And it is true.
Now, is this referring to like a particular? Is this a particular kind of R? In other words, or this is reflective of any R is Minei Bay, or is this this is a particular or that's the closest to the Etzim, and then you have auras that are not Minei Bay. It's there are auras that are like auras after the Tzimtzum, or
that we will see. That we will see. What we are aiming right now is to explain that the Ayin that we speak about oil is true wherever oil is found. Even oil after the Tzimtzum also has this principle that it's Dovim bin Koira. And Dovim bin Koira means that it is there's the Mokir. The Mokir is a principle in that of its statement.
and it's still Kol Adayin. It's Kol Adayin. That's what we said. Yeah.
So this oil,
Okay.
leave it off, please.
Okay.
Let's start again. I said from the third line from the top.
Amen.
Huh?
Sorry,
yeah.
Yes.
We have to remember. I apologize if I shut you guys up. It's not of your fault at all. But this is the intelligence that you were trained with, and we need to understand that intelligence is really an emanation of something higher than intelligence. And when we are ultimately putting it on an intellectual level, we have a focus. We see that which is higher intelligence, and we are elaborating it on an intellectual level, but we do not limit it to the intellectual level that we are identifying it with. Like we gave it a very simple example. If you're going to describe the experience of seeing the Niagara Falls, you are not going to circumscribe it and define it in your mind. This is what I'm going to tell him. If this is what you're going to tell him, forget it. You're not telling him anything. You're going to focus and have the experience in front of your eyes. You are going to re-experience it. And you're going to talk about that experience. You're not going to talk about that which you have decided it looks like. This is the real principle of intelligence that Rambam explains to you. Before you go into Chokhmah, you have to know that there's a first being. Clearly know the first being. Everything is based on that knowledge. All your Chokhmah, if you forget about that knowledge, your Chokhmah is not Chokhmah anymore. Please understand very simple principles we lose sight. A car does not move on its own. It moves only as part of the earth. If you take the car off the earth, it's going to spin wheels. It's not going to move. It's meant to move, not to spin wheels.
This piece about the car is to say that if intellect is taken away from its
reality, there's nothing there. You're imagining something.
It's a house of cards.
A house of cards, right?
Yeah, I want to get
That's what
into
I'm
it.
saying. The car that goes in circles is not a car at all. It doesn't qualify as such. This is the folly, this is the stupidity that's going on. And see, this Torah is leading you, and keeping you abreast and connected to the truth. Dovuk. To some meaningful aspect of Seichel. Not an imaginary aspect of Seichel. What's a perfect car? One that can go in circles. What?
Like the skill of the driver and the technology of the car, that's all this intellect based on nothing?
That's right. It says nothing.
It's not connected to...
What is it? What is it about? Where did the idea of a car emanate from? The need for a person to move. To move what? Move in circles? No, to move from one place to another. To connect the entire world for him. And why does he need to move? Because, yes, this is his platform. The whole world is his stage. And this is an elaboration of that. This is an actualization of it. You take that out and make that the criterion itself, you completely cancel out the whole meaning of it. All right, so now let's go back to the third line from the top on Yud Gimel. V'ha'hefresh hu, this we learned yesterday, but we need to start from that point. The difference between Oir and Atzilus. Mamash, a new presentation. And the point of this is to explain how the Oir, even after the Tzimtzum, is also Dovuk Be'en Esach. And to understand that, we first have to discuss the difference between the reference Oir and the reference of Atzilus. Because Atzilus is also Oir, as we discussed yesterday. The difference between these two references is the Yik and Inyan Oir, that the principle Inyan of Oir, the point of Oir, is it is as the oil is kolul be'atzmusei, is incorporated in part and parcel of the etzem. What does it mean? It's kolul be'atzmusei. Shehagilui hu minei ubei. Oil is gilui. This gilui is minei ubei, is from itself, is within itself. This is like atzmus knowing itself. This is the Oir. This is not Oir. The reality of Atmos as it is known to itself. Be'inyan Atzilus hu. And what is the inyan of Atzilus? What is reference to Atzilus? They bring out. Bechina hu bechinas his galus ha'oir. Chutz le'atzmusi kaviyoch. This is the bechina. This is the inyan, the bechina, the principle of his galus ha'oir chutz le'atzmusi kaviyoch. Of the oir coming forth and being recognizable chutz le'atzmusi, outside of the Yatz. Kaviyoch. And the Kaviyoch over here is an important qualifier, because there is nothing chutz li'atzmus. So the inyan of his galus ha'oir chutz li'atzmusei is not a literal formulation, literal description, because there's nothing chutz le'atzmus. It is within the atzmus, how to look on the oir as if it were chutz le'atzmus. Okmoi atzilus ruchei shel Moshe. Where do we get this? Where do we have this reference of atzilus? Atzilus ruchei shel Moshe al haskein. This is in the Torah described, and it uses in the Torah the word bayotzel, atzilus. Atzilus, the emanating, and the effect of Ruach Shel Moshe, not just the emanation of Ruach Shel Moshe per se, but Atzilus Ruach Shel Moshe al hazikenim, upon this kenim. There were 70 zikenim that were gathered. And Ruach Shel Moshe has descended and has touched and affected and related to these Zikanim. And as a result of that, these Zikanim were participants in leading the people and giving support to Moshe Rabbeinu, assisting Moshe Rabbeinu in leading the people to the desert. So what is this Atzilus Ruach Shel Moshe al Haskenim? Shezehu, which is Bebchinas Yitzia v'His Galus Mei Ruach Shel Moshe. This Atzilus Ruach Shel Moshe al Haskenim. This is not Ruach Shel Moshe as it is known to Moshe himself. This is his galus mei Ruach Shel Moshe al Haskenim. It is that which Ruach Shel Moshe is megala. How you megala Ruach Shel Moshe, not Ruach Shel Moshe as it is nisgala from the etzem of Moshe, but in Moshe himself. The Rebbe is going to explain now. Okay, important again to remind us. We have to try to understand what the Rebbe is giving us, not try to imagine what the oil looks like.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
It says v'chein hu ba'or gam achar tzimtzum. Now we're talking that as a tzilus. We're calling that a tzilus now, or that's still
Ultimately,
because he's
in
talking
order to
about or as
explain,
because now he's talking about or as kol ba'atzmus, so that would be before the tzimtzum.
So the Rebbe explains there are two references to oil. One is called oil and one is called atzilus. In order to explain this inyan, that after the tzimtzum, the oil is also dovuk be'atzum. In order to explain that, he went into explaining these two terms of oil and atzilus. How he's going to end up is not our business right now.
Okay.
We want to understand these two terms as the Rebbe is saying. He's explaining oil is the way the inyan is gilui. Oil is gilui, but it's gilui mina yobei, within himself and to himself. Atzilus is his galus ho'erchus. That's not galus. Shezel bechinas yitzia v'his galus mei ruchish al Moshe. The Pasuk describes this phenomenon, this episode, as v'yotzalti min ruach asher alecha v'samti aleya. That's what it said. The Rebbe said, "Yotzalti, yorayiti v'yotzalti ruach asher alecha v'samti aleya." I will take off the ruach that is on you, and I will also be matzil upon them. What is this? Tell us in these terms, in these words. There is the inyan, the way Moshe is unto himself, and it's not taking the ruach from Moshe; it's taking from the ruach of Moshe. Where Moshe already has the ruach of Moshe, is already in a state of his galus, and from that gilui, he's taking and putting on this kelim. Let me take again a very coarse and a gross presentation of this concept, and then we won't have to struggle with it. What is the difference? I was going to say something gross, but something more edel. The Gemara says that Odam Reitzer B'Kaf Shaloi Mitish Kaf Shachavei. A person prefers one measure of his own that he actually labored, that he actually produced and grew in his field and harvested. Over 9 kabin that he will purchase in the store, that somebody else produced. So we discussed it many times. What is the difference between this wheat and this wheat? Ultimately, he is eating wheat. The difference is that the Tisha Kabin Shechaveri, the 9 Kabin of the Chaveri, when does he come in contact with them? When does he identify their existence? At the stage where they are wheat. His own, he identifies with before they became wheat. And they were part of the Koyach HaOretz. It's a completely different relationship. So using this as a metaphor for this in from Moshe, and the Ruach Moshe is emanating from that, and then there's the Ruach as the Ruach is already in existence, and from Ruach Moshe there was a bestowing, there was a Atzilus on the Ayin. So they get it from the Ruach Moshe, not from the essence of Moshe. Okay.
In this point, it sounds like we're focusing gain more, we're pointing out the mile of oil.
We're not talking about miles right now.
Hold on.
Right. Go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry,
I'm sorry.
I'm saying from.
Oh, yeah, don't worry.
There is a oil and shefa. So there is a oil minay base we discussed, and then there is a shefa which is totally different. And now we're talking about atzilus, which is a little closer to us than oil is when it's minay base, just for itself. So what the way you teach now, like what I understand, that it will point out the quality of the oil. It is mineo be just like Moshe Rabbeinu had it to himself, like that calf that he had on his own. Whatever the Kedim got, they got something else, like of a different quality. But we could look at it from a different perspective and say, look what they got. They got something that nobody else could ever get. They got some like what Atzilus, principle of Atzilus is, that it gives out something outside of the etzim, so to say, but of such a quality that nobody else could ever get.
And therefore
It's great.
He says it's not right.
I don't know. It's just amazing.
What?
I'm saying, in Shefa, in the principle of Shefa, we could never get that.
No,
close
Abraham,
to
listen. We spoke about that. What is the focus of this talking over here on the Rebbe? What is the focus? The Rebbe is challenging us to understand that oil, even after the tzimtzum, is double b'ha'etz. He's not competing. The other scheme are not competing with Moshe Rabbeinu. And we're not competing with the Ayin scheme. That is not the point. That oil, even after the tzimtzum, remains oil. In essence, which means that's an idea with double b'ha'etz, which is not easy to understand, because this oil is kind of his chachus after the tzimtzum. So the Rebbe explains to this in that atzilus in the pshat, the oil as it comes begili from the essential oil, from the oil as it is in the earth. Atzilus mi meruch shomosh. This is the term atzilus. Atzilus is a proper term for oil, because atzilus has to be understood in contrast to bria. Bria is not oil. Bria is creation. Bria is yesh me'ayin. Atzilus is not yesh me'ayin. It is the same thing following through in a further gilui. And it doesn't exist independently. It still gave a double. But it's not called oil. Oil is that which is part and parcel of the Yetzim itself.
In other words, it's clear from inside sufficiently. What we just explained, there's no need to take it. It's clear. The Rebbe already said.
Exactly right.
Right here.
Exactly right. Our biggest challenge is to understand what the Rebbe is presenting,
Right.
and not lose focus.
So here it was said light is the same thing but on a lower level. But really that's Atzilus. When we say light, we mean as it is within its source.
Sorry, what?
The distinction here, light is the same thing but on a lower level, as it is emanated, and it does not exist independently. That's for Atzilus.
That we shall. Yeah, that's what we wanna. That's what we are being explained. The Atzilus, even though that is also oil, even though that is Atzilus, that is Gilui, from the oil. So this becomes like a further and a separate Metzius, you would think, because it's Netzal Allah scheme. But it remains Dovik B'Atzil. There's a difference between Atzilus and oil.
The difference so far that we're identifying is that it becomes so-called unto itself.
No, it doesn't say anything unto itself.
Well, I keep thinking of Atzilus as a world.
No. Don't think Atzilus in the world. I think Atzilus in the context that it's being used over here. Here, Atzilus is used in substitution of the word oil.
Okay, so then what is okay? And so what have we learned so far as the unique? How it does differ from or?
That oil is Minei Obei, is internal to the essence. But Atzilus is how this oil comes external to the essence.
Even though we
Which
think,
is the gilui of the oil, of the internal oil.
I tend to think of or as something that's becoming begilui, but here we're saying there's such a thing as or that is meneu bay.
That's Iker Inyan.
Huh?
Iker.
That's Iker Inyan or. This is a big chiddush.
Okay. Again, I ask you. Let us. We have to try very hard to be taught rather than to learn. At this point, after you absorb what's being taught, you think about it and try to be able to absorb it, to put it into your own mind. But Latchila, we will never understand it.
Right. I'm trying to take notes of what's being said. Even that is
No, that's right. No, notes is fine. So
pretty elusive. Okay. This last comment we had was on target here, that this is kind of ikar or that it's unto itself. Meneu bay.
well, this is again. We will see.
Okay.
We will see. We are always tending to give things stand-alone definitions. They don't belong here. When you see something, do you see it in a form as if it were not in front of you, or as if it were in front of you?
Yeah. First glance, as if it's in front of you.
That's what sight is.
Yeah.
If you don't experience the object in front of you, then you have seen nothing. Then you don't experience sight. And in order, here is the big thing. Here's the big thing. Here's the big challenge. This is where we confuse. In order for us to see the object, we have to believe that the object exists. Our tendency to retranslate it in our own terms is because we don't believe the object exists. When it makes sense to us, then it begins to exist. That's a big mistake. This is what the Rambam says. First, you have to know that there's a first being from which everything emanates. And therefore, everything you see has a truth to it. And you want to know it within its truth. If it's true only because it affects you, you're not dealing with the truth. That's what we spent yesterday and the day before and the day before and years back, right?
Tomorrow maybe.
And tomorrow maybe. This is the important principle. Seichel. What's so great about Seichel? What's a human being? We spoke about yesterday, quite extensively about this. The whole difference is that the human being knows things from their essential truth perspective, not how they function and they affect him. And he says, I can live with the truth. I don't have to live by osmosis, by feeling it, by experiencing it. Like you say all the time, a child sees a picture, what does he do?
Puts it in its mouth.
He has to eat it. Why? Because his seichel is not developed yet. It's not real. Let's go down. All right, this is for davening time.
The Verbringen ist bei then only. 701 Crown Street.
Okay, what? I mean, the next sentence in the mining is the Ika in Oil Commission called about this Banshai given in base.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but I mean, it is. That's Ika in Oil.
That again. Yes, this is Ikin Inhoe. What does that mean? I mean, what is the point? The point is not to give definition to oil. The point is to explain what is the relationship, or the principle of the whole discussion is it Dveikus element? Who cares what oil is? What's the principle of mitzvahs? How nice the mitzvah is, how smart the mitzvah is, that it connects it to neighbors.
Fabringen's after Mincha.
Huh?
Ron asked me what time is the Fabringen. What does it end up to be like? When is Shkia?
A little bit before Shkia.
Yeah.
Ayin, 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 Ayin,